Welcome to our show. Today, our topic is technology due diligence. Our special guest is David Sturman. David is a senior technology advisor. One of his specialties is doing due diligence for technology or on technology for companies looking to acquire another company. You can find David's profile on LinkedIn.
When technology due diligence is to look at the technology and the areas around the technology, or the areas of a company that impact the technology, to give an evaluation of if is the technology stable, good, is it have longevity to it, is the team developing it a strong team, is there security, and a little later I'll go through all the different areas. But basically, you're providing an evaluation of the technology and the processes that are going into creating that technology. It's a little like a financial audit in some sense, in that you're trying to say, what's the health of the technology of a particular company?
And what is the purpose of this? I mean,
Yeah. So if our clients are, for the most part, private equity. These are companies that are buying companies. And to the extent that the company is a technology company or the company is supported by technology, they want to know that their investment, they want to know what they're buying. They want to know what they're buying. They want to know how much money they're going to have to put in to fix it if there's anything broken. How sustainable is it? What if they want to improve it? What's it going to take? It's basically they want to know, are they making a sound investment or not?
Okay.
So that's our job, is in the diligence, is to discover and what's the state of the technology. And it doesn't have to be a private equity. It's anyone who wants to know, usually for an acquisition, what are we getting?
Okay.
And most of the time, the people we're working with are not technical. So, the same way that I wouldn't be able to go in and tell you if a company's finances are in good shape. They can't tell whether a company's technology in good shape, so they hire us to tell them that.
Do you create a number like you would on an asset as part of the technology? And having sold companies, we always look at the bottom. What's the net worth of the company, and
Yeah.
Do you do that?
It would be nice to be able to have a number and say this scores 7 out of 10. And for that number to be objective and not subjective. Unfortunately, technology, and we're talking mostly software technology here, is really hard to be objective about. So we look at it along several different parameters. There are some metrics we can use, which can give you an indication, but they're really a guidepost or a directional indicator, not an absolute indicator. So, for instance, you can look at the National Institute of Standard Security measures, and they have a metric along several dimensions of a company's security maturity. And so we can go using that and give them a metric out of that. It's like, how secure is the data? How secure are their communications? What are their policies? And there's sort of a standard rating for that. Okay. We can also look at things like defect rates. What are the defect rates for a company? We can look at staffing ratios. How many developers to quality assurance people do they have? How many program or product managers are for a particular size of a development team? But those metrics are affected by so many other things that in themselves, they'll only tell you a piece of the puzzle, piece of the story. And you really need to look at the whole enterprise to really have a good understanding of what there is. So I could go and say, you've got a technology that is 20 years old. And a lot of the companies that I've looked at are companies that have been around for quite some time. The average age might be 15 years. But a company that's 15 or 20 years old, if they're running some of the original software they have, that software may not be very good, or it may be simple enough and it does its job. And there is not really a problem with it needing to scale. It just does what it does and it does it well. And there's a team of people that manage it well. That would get a different evaluation as a piece of software that's fairly new, but is poorly managed and poorly constructed. So there are a lot of variables that you have to look at to really get a health metric, but it's not really a metric because there are too many variables in it.
Okay. Do people want to like a bottom line? Like,
Everyone wants everyone wants a bottom line. Everyone, I mean, really they really want a yes or no. Is this good? Yes. Is this good? No. That's really what they want. But you can't, everything's qualified.
Okay.
Yes, it's good if you don't want to double the size of the company. But if you want to double the size of the company, no, you're going to have to invest $10 million to re-architect it to be scalable. So you can't say good. So one of the most important parts about doing a technology diligence is understanding what is the investment thesis? Why are you doing this diligence? Why do you want to acquire this technology? What are you going to do with it?
We are taking a break from our show to talk about gaining wisdom from our success ladder benchmark. Every software project has risk. This is a bet, just as much as buying a lottery ticket or going to casino. However, do you know your odds? Do you know how to improve your odds? Our success ladder benchmark gives you your odds of success by profiling your project against 50,000 cases in our chaos database. It also gives you hints on where you can improve your odds. There are only few inputs and 6 runs in the benchmark. After each run, the benchmark will indicate your chances of success. The Success Ladder benchmark is part of our membership. You can benchmark as many projects as you want and even play what-if games. You can change this or change that, and each run will tell you your chances of success. To get your Success Ladder benchmark, go to standishgroup.com. Now back to our show.
Is it, and some of the responses and some of the things we see are a company is being purchased because they want to include it with other portfolio companies. So it might be a healthcare company that specializes in one kind of healthcare, and they plan to buy other healthcare companies to round out the offering, and they want to combine the technologies. That's very different from a technology that might be in a particular geographic location, and they want to buy the company and use the investment money to expand the regional, the geographic footprint of the company. And the evaluation of the technology is very different in each case. In the first case, we really want to look at how well can the technology be integrated with other technologies. In the second case, where you want to scale it, is how scalable is the technology? How scalable does it need to be? Do you need to be able to run twice as many users through it, or twice as many transactions, or 10 times the transactions? Do you need it to be able to work in other jurisdictions, other legal jurisdictions, where there might be other requirements? that the technology might or might not be able to adapt to. So it's very important to understand what the technology is going to be used for and what's the future of the technology to be able to say whether it's a good investment.
So if I'm selling a house, the buyer will often want a house inspection.
Right.
And I've always took very proactive when I was selling a house to get a pre-house inspection.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Do you recommend getting a pre-due diligence on technology before you start talking to people about selling a company?
Yeah, a lot of companies do that. And it's a good practice, but usually not for why the company is doing it. So we've seen a lot of we call it sell side technical diligence, but usually there's a fair amount of spin put to it and a little bit of whitewashing. So you'll get a report about the state of the technology, but it may leave out some things it maybe leave out some of the warts and just emphasize the good things because you want to sell it. You know, if you have an engineer's report, if you do your own engineer's report on the house, you might have a tendency to steer the engineer in a particular direction and, oh, don't look in the basement, don't worry about that. Now, a good engineer will say, no, we need to look at it. But if it's going to keep you from selling the house, you don't want that on the report. But what you do want to do is know what are the things that you can fix. So in your house, you might bring an engineer to say, what are all the things that the banks, the buyer's engineer are going to find? Let me fix those that make sense to fix, so that when the other engineer comes in, they'll find it a clean bill of health. And that's what we recommend, is that if you're going to 6 months, at least 6 months before you're getting ready for a sale, do a tech diligence and have the engineering team look at, one is, what are the things that you can fix quickly that will help the sale? And two, there's a large number of documents that a buy side, so the buyer will want to know, have those documents ready, have engineering architectural diagrams, have code scans, have security reviews, have all those things in hand so that when the buyers come, you can hand them a lot of the information that they're going to ask for, and you don't have to be struggling at the last minute. What we often find is we come in with a list of items we want, and then the engineering teams are scrambling to put those pieces together. If you can do your scrambling over 6 months rather than over 3 weeks, you'll be in a much better position to provide the information without completely blindsiding your team or distracting your team from their normal day-to-day operation.
I want to thank our guest and our panelists for being part of the show, and thank you for being part of the show. I hope we have given you a few minutes of wisdom. We look forward to seeing you next time on Wisdom Wednesday. This is your host, Jim Johnson.